Hello and welcome to the Heart Standard Wednesday briefing. I'm James Cairney. I'm not Joe Sked because he's on his holidays this week. And I'm joined today by Tom Irving, who people will know on Twitter from his handle at Irving Analysis. You're a level 2 scout, is that right?
Yeah, level 2 with the PFSA. Yep, and I work with both Sterling, Stranraer, and a club in Luxembourg as well called Mondorf. So yeah.
So there you go. So unlike myself and Joe, you actually know what you're on about. You're actually qualified. that makes a nice change for us. So today we're going to be looking at the kind of core first team players that have been getting minutes both last season and this season. And we're going to have a look at how they've been developing, how they've been getting along, who's improving, who's getting a wee bit worse, year on year. And that's because Tom has written an article about that coming out tomorrow. So just tell us a wee bit about it, Tom. Just what it is you've done, what it is you're looking at.
Yeah, so I collected the data for all regular players from last year who are also regular players this year. I compared their data, made them into percentiles, so compared it with the rest of the league and the specific positions or kind of areas of the park against all other players who played, again, regularly in the league. And I've made some graphs and written up a bit of detail kind of describing the graphs as well, because I know graphs and numbers and stuff is sometimes a bit hard to look at for a lot of people, but I try to make them as kind of easy to read as possible. But yeah, that's basically it. So there's only 7 players that were regulars last year that are still regulars this year. I've used the cutoff of last year 1,200 minutes, so around about a third of the minutes available, and I've tried to use the same this year. I just went for 300 minutes. I think is it 9-10 games we've played so far this year? It's off the top of my head, I think
9 in the league.
9.
I think. Yeah.
So again, around about a third of the minutes. Which isn't that many minutes. 300 minutes is a bit low for if we're looking at, kind of getting a good sample. It's a little bit low, but at this time of the season, if we moved that up to maybe 450 or 600 minutes, it would have been a pretty small sample size of players. So I just wanted to keep it, as open as possible. I've also included Oda as well, because I feel like when Naismith came in, he was a regular, so it wasn't really his fault that he wasn't playing previously, as far as we know. So yeah, I've included him. I know I could have included other players that were kind of out injured and stuff, but I've just left all the players who were injured out. Like, for example, this season, Cochrane's missed out because he's had a decent injury spell. Last season, obviously, we've got Boyce as well, who is regular and would have been regular last year, but he's kind of missed out on, I think he missed out possibly in both seasons, so I missed him out amongst a few other players. So should I just get into it?
Well, I guess one of the things I was going to quickly say first was, I mean, when you look at that list of players, so we've got, what is it, 7 plus Oda, so we'll say 8. Straight off the bat, the thing that makes me go is, that's not that many. That's lower than I would have thought, right? I mean, I know obviously the summer's been gone and your players leave and new ones come in, but it's not. I guess that alone kind of signifies itself that there has been a big bit of a changing of the guard of late, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's one of the first things I noticed and kind of wrote down as my notes. It was pretty low number of players consistently playing last season and this season, so that core is kind of just not there as much. That continuity from last season at least. And 7, it doesn't sound that low a number when you consider there's only 11 players playing, but usually you'd have maybe 15 players that were kind of regularly playing each, who should make that 300-minute cutoff, but only 7 of them making that cutoff. It could say maybe our recruitment was good, maybe we brought in players that are just better than what we had last year, or it could be we've lost players that were playing regularly last year, which is obviously a negative, or it could just be a little bit, both of the above really. With Hearts, I guess we've lost Janelli last year. Who else have we lost? Can't think off the top of my head. My brain's. Oh wait, we lost. I guess Humphreys was kind of a bit part player, but he maybe would have made the cutoff. We've had a few injuries, obviously, which is not great, which is probably one of the reasons why this number is so low. Like I said, Cochrane would have been in it. I'm sure Benny, if he wasn't injured, he would have been in it. Halkett would have been in it. I've not used goalies in this, but Gordon probably would have been starting every game this year and last as well, if I was doing goalies as well. So yeah, it is a little bit low, but hopefully as we go further into the season, that number kind of comes up a little bit, I would imagine. But I guess we've got to wait and see if that's going to happen.
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely fair. I guess everything as well, I just want to pick up on that you mentioned as well, was the fact that it's a small sample size for the players who've played this season so far, but it's that thing of we can only work off of what we've got, and like you say, it's maybe not the most representative way of doing it, but it's that thing of going, but it's still indicative, even if it is a small sample size,
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. So I guess where were we starting? Will we start at the back?
So there's one thing I noticed regarding kind of the whole team in general. So there's a metric on StatsBomb that gets kind of the average of where passes are made. It's called, I think it's average pass X on StatsBomb. But yeah, it shows where it splits the pitch up into like 100%. So if you're on your goal line, it would be 0. If you're on the opposition goal line, it would be 100. And then it finds where the average pass is. And apart from Oda, every player actually got further away from their own goal, their average kind of passing area.
That is interesting, because I would have thought it might have been the opposite. I might have thought it might have been playing a little bit deeper and a little bit closer to their own goal.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought as well. But then I guess we had that whole under Nielsen. People felt we played it around the back quite a lot and kind of sat in a little bit deeper. So potentially that's why there is a bit. For example, Kingsley, he's playing in a different position. He was more of like a left centre back last year, so his data is probably a bit skewed. As well with Sibic, he was more of a centre back, I feel, last year, but this year he's kind of playing on the right a little bit more, so he might have that freedom to get up and down. And then I think those are the two that kind of the data could be a little bit different with. I suppose with Forrest as well, he was a bit more of a right wing back last year as well, but now he is playing more of a kind of right forward or more of an attacking position. So that could be why, but for everyone else, basically also moving up slightly further up the pitch as well, which is, I guess, good to see.
Yeah, no, I mean, I guess that's one of the things that I know I've certainly written about this before, and I know Joel has as well, is that when you look at the kind of the passing statistics between what it was like before Naismith and what it's been like under Naismith, both in the interim spell and this season, and we noticed that in terms of like Hearts' passing kind of in and around the opposition box is actually pretty good compared to most other teams in the league. So I guess that would suggest that they are getting that bit further forward, that extra 5-10 yards, whatever it might be, and there has been a bit more of a focus, I think, on controlling the ball and having a bit more possession. Now, again, there's been those similar problems at times with Nielsen, where it's been possession, but maybe a little bit pedestrian at times. We maybe struggling to penetrate. There's been plenty of games this season we've seen that where Hearts have had lots of the ball and then struggled to really make inroads in that final third. I'm looking at St Mirren, Motherwell, first half of St Johnstone, Kelly at home in the league. Take your pick. There's been quite a few. There's been quite a few. But I guess so we are seeing that generally as a team that Hearts are getting better in the final third, even if those like clear cut goal scoring opportunities are still a wee bit shy. They're maybe not quite there. But again, it's probably a bit more of a like the structure is a bit more advanced, and like we're saying, we're getting more passes in and around the box. So is there anyone in particular in that area of the park that you think's really excelled from this year compared to the last?
So when it comes to, kind of touches, so touches in the box, that a few people have improved, and kind of passes into the final third and deep completions. So things like that, yeah, they have improved kind of throughout the team a little bit. One thing I did notice as well, though, was with that entire group of players, and we're talking about pretty attacking players out with kind of Cibic and Rolls. The rest of them are fairly attacking players. There's not been one assist in the entire group, in that entire eight players, which is a little bit worrying. But then when you look at, we've only scored 9 goals, I think it was this season, or 8 goals this season, something like that. It's like, I suppose that isn't too strange.
And again, some of them as well don't even have assists for them. Think of like Lowry's goal in the derby, for instance. No one assisted that. That was just is it even his goal actually? I don't know. Was that given to him, or was that given as an own goal?
I'm not sure actually.
I
think it was given as a Lowry goal until they kind of checked it later on. I think it was taken off him actually. So
yeah. But sorry to interrupt you, but So looking at the sorry, on you go.
I was going to say, looking if we kind of start from the back with Atkinson, he's improved on a lot of things. At least he's kind of changed, actually. I would say the style of play is changed a little bit. So he's not contributed with a goal or assist this year, but his expected goals and expected assists are actually fairly decent for a player in his position. So it seems like he's getting in the right chances. He's just not potentially, putting them in the back of the net or finding someone with maybe a better ball potentially with expected assists. Another attacking metric is its accurate crosses are much lower, but that might be down to kind of our struggles in the final third in general. It's something I noticed. I think majority of the players that play in like an attacking position, their crosses were lower, and the accurate crosses were lower. So that could be maybe Shanklin's not pushing up as much in those situations. Maybe we didn't have Ginnelly finding kind of space in the box to receive balls like we did last year. So it could just be that the crosses might just be as good. There just might not be as many people in there. So I guess, are the crosses as good if there's no one there? It's one of those kind of arguments you could have.
Yeah, I get it. Like, it's all about the guy on the receiving end, isn't it? It's like if you hit the best ball in the world, but if nobody's there to head it in, then it doesn't do you much good.
Exactly.
I find that interesting what you're saying about Atkinson, because I think we can see just from like watching him that he does seem to be that bit more offensive, particularly compared to I think to Kingsley on the other side, where I think Kingsley's good at getting forward and getting good positions on the ball. But I think he sometimes struggles with that forward pass. I think that was really evident in the Celtic game, for instance. But Atkinson, obviously, he's out injured at the moment. But I think that because he's got that, maybe that little bit more pace, he seems a bit more comfortable taking his man on, trying to get beyond him, and then seeing what he can do from there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he seems to really enjoy getting the ball and kind of just going forwards. And I feel like some people give him a bit of harsh criticism, saying he's technically not the best. I think he's a fairly good player, and he is very attacking. So I would like to see a little bit more freedom in his role. I did notice as well with that talking about his dribbling, he's involved in much more passes this year. So it went from 32 to 41 passes per game, but less dribbles. So it's went from nearly 2 to under half a dribble a game, which is weird because, that's one of the things he's best at, I feel, is getting the ball and going forward. But that, again, might be more of a positional change because he's less of a right wing back now and more of a right back. So maybe he's been told to get the ball and pass it a little bit more than if he goes forward and loses it, he doesn't have as many people there to kind of recover the ball. So it could be something to do with that. But then again, saying that, he's had nearly double the amount of shots per game and double the amount of touches in the box as well per game. So I feel like he's getting forward and playing slightly differently and getting into the box a lot more and getting shots away. But potentially, I don't know, looking at his defensive stats as well, it looks like he's much more included in the attack, potentially being forward, but then when he's told to defend, he's not defending from as far up the pitch. Because, for example, his Ball recoveries were really similar. He's not got as high an aggressive action number, which is how many, it's within, I think it's 2 seconds of the opposition receiving the ball, is he tackling them or challenging them in some way. So that's went down a lot. And also his recoveries in the final third has went down, I think it's about nearly half. So he seems to be getting forward more, but then when he's out of possession, he's more inclined to drop back in and play it safe than kind of pressing possibly higher up the park. Which I guess, again, it could just be a tactical or a shape type thing, change of managers, expect different things of your players. So yeah, probably just down to that instead of his actual style as a player.
That's interesting. It's a bit of a mixed bag then. So there's some things where he's definitely doing better than last season. There's other areas, like you say, where it's not quite the same level of output. So that's really interesting. And I guess I think most Heart fans would look at Atkinson as a kind of an offensive option at right back, and then obviously we've got the other guy in there who's, I would say, is probably a bit more of an actual defender, Toby Sibbick. What did you find when you looked at him?
Yeah, just quickly, actually, going back to Atkinson quickly. So, no, last little point I forgot to mention that I feel like a lot of people say he's soft and he doesn't get stuck in, but he's actually got the highest rate of tackles of all. So I compared him with all wide players, so wide defenders, wide midfielders, and he was one of the, I think it was 97th percentile, so one of the basically highest amount of tackles. So he does get stuck in, and yeah, he's pretty good at it, I feel like. Yeah.
So just to quickly say, so it's 97 percentile. That'd be the top 5, 6, 7 players, something like that.
Something like that,
in the whole league for those areas. That's pretty good. That's not bad, right?
Exactly. On to Sibbick. So again, a lot of his metrics kind of changed, probably based on his positional change. So, for example, his passes, there's a significant amount of backward passes, like the increase in backward passes. But again, if he's pushing up further, like if he's playing centre back, there's not many options going back. When he's playing right back, there is more options. So probably to do with that. He, on an attacking sense, his expected goals has went up. So it could be maybe he's getting on the end of crosses from corners, or it could be that he's just higher up the park and getting a chance to shoot every now and then. But yeah, we've got nothing to show from it. It looks like I think his expected goals was around 1 in 10, a goal every 10 games. So maybe at the weekend we'll see a Sibbick goal. Going for his kind of defensive stuff, he seems to improve all round defensively, which I guess it could be a number of things. It could be a positional thing, moving from centre back, playing against potentially big, strong centre forwards, moving to right back and playing against maybe smaller, less physical wingers. He's pretty quick, so I feel like he's fairly good at playing against other quick players on the wing. So it could be something to do with that, because I think most of his defensive metrics kind of increased. So yeah, that could be why, I would say. But yeah, not many things kind of stood out as significantly improved or significantly decreased, but it just more of like a general style, I think, for Sibbick changed probably because of positional stuff.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good point you make. I think that I know certainly this season watching him, I think that he looks more comfortable at right back. I think we saw in the derby he went to centre half, didn't really work out for him. Obviously that's just one game, so you don't want to be too harsh, but it does seem like, for those reasons you say, like, he's a big strong guy, he's got a great recovery if someone does manage to dart in beyond him, and he's got that, he's got the pace to catch up to them, and he's got the strength and the tackling technique to get the ball off them. So I think that's interesting. Again, I think that he's definitely one to watch. I'd definitely come back in a few months' time and have a look and see how he's developing then.
Yeah, exactly.
So I guess another guy at the back then, who's someone who a lot of fans have some fairly strong opinions on this guy. I'll go for Kai Rolls. So how's he even getting on?
Yeah, I knew the second you sheepishly went around saying that, I knew who you're talking about.
Yeah,
He does definitely divide the fan base, which I guess is understandable depending on what you look for from a centre back. The first thing that actually jumped out to me was an attacking metric. I've noticed he gets on the end of crosses from like corners and stuff quite regularly. It's quite regularly him in there meeting a corner, which you would imagine is a bit strange. That might be because no one's marking him because they think he can't win a header. But he has increased his shooting accuracy, so things like that significantly. But obviously not hugely important when you're looking at a centre back. Going into his defensive stuff, that aerial ability potentially from corners and stuff it doesn't really translate into his defensive game. He was the lowest percentile last year, and he still is the lowest percentile this year for aerial duels. And it's actually went down from 50% of aerial duels won to 44%, which isn't too great. That could be. It depends on a few things, I guess. He's got a different defensive partner.
Yeah.
Teams could be playing differently. They could be before when they had two players to play against, and both weren't incredible in there. Potentially, they didn't really care who they were targeting. This year, they might be targeting, putting their stronger centre forward on roles. That could be the issue. But when the ball's on the ground, he is a brilliant defender. I feel like, and the stats kind of back it up. Things like counter pressing, so pressing within 5 seconds of a turnover, he is brilliant with. Defensive regain, so recovering the ball and regaining possession, he is brilliant at. He's improved with ball recoveries vastly as well. So yeah, winning the ball back in that situation. Interceptions is something I feel like he thrives on, just being in the right position at the right time, and also just pressures in general. He's always pressing the ball, but then that kind of highlights what he's good at, which is kind of the sweeper role. He's not a ball-winning centre back; he's a sweeper. And if we could find a way to fit that into our team, it'll be brilliant. We're not conceding that many goals this year. And we've still got Halkett to come back, who I think is due back potentially next month. So depending on how Naismith wants to play, we could see Rolls drop out the team for that more physical centre back pairing of Kent and Halkett, or we could see maybe a move to a back three. We could potentially let Atkinson get up and Kingsley get up the park a little, or Cochrane get up the park a little bit more. And I feel like with Halkett and Kent to do the dirty work and leave Rolls to play everything on the ground, I think it would be a pretty good partnership with those three at the back. But I guess we'll wait and see how Naismith tackles that. In possession as well, he was keeping the ball more from, and he was having more successful dribbles, which is good. So I feel like that highlights, less errors and less balls lost. So that was another thing I noticed.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that marries up with a lot of what we've seen this season as well, and even last season as well, where we know that when it comes to like big looking balls into the box, that's not his forte. That's not what he's good at. But he is a footballer, if you know what I mean. He's with no disrespect to something like Halkett, who's a great player, but Halkett's more of a kind of big lump kind of guy. Whereas you get Rolls where he's maybe a bit more athletic, like you say, he can play a bit. He just really needs to get on top of the. There needs to be some sort of improvement that with the heading, surely though. Who knows what the answer to that is?
Exactly, but it's one of those things. It's like, right, we've got this one, like thinking from a coach's perspective, we've got this one glaring error in his game or something that he's not good at. Do we spend all of our time trying to improve something he's awful at and potentially improving it a little bit? Because if you've got someone who's awful at shooting, you wouldn't like. Obviously, it depends on the role, but if they couldn't kick a ball into the net, like couldn't score a goal, yes, we could work on it and try push as hard as we can, or we could find a different way to play. Maybe that guy's just not a goal scorer. Maybe we try and change his role a little bit to make him, fit his profile. So
because that is a big thing in coaching, isn't it? About you rather than worrying about the things you can't do, like excel at the things that you can, and then the rest kind of falls into place.
Yeah, exactly.
So I guess we'll look on next. I'm just realising we've been on for a while now. We've got a few to start to get through. I guess we'll look at Stephen Kingsley then. Again, another one kind of similar to Civic, where his roles probably changed a wee bit, where he's went from being the wide centre half and a back three, now he's playing just more as your box standard fullback, I would say. I don't know, is that what the data says?
Yeah, again, it's just more, it looks like, stylistic changes depending on his position. He's creating more chances, it seems. He's got a much higher expected assists. So more touches in the box, well over double, I think it was, which makes sense if he's playing a little bit higher up the pitch. And then the only thing that stood out really for Kingsley was his successful duels was a bit worse. But again, that could be a stylistic thing, a positional thing, moving into a different position. He was pretty good at winning things in the air. He was a strong tackler, but he's not the quickest. So I feel like playing against a quick winger, maybe he's going to struggle a little bit more. So yeah, it could again be positional thing, but yeah, there wasn't huge amounts that stuck out vastly to me with regards to Kingsley. It was just looked like a little bit different style due to his position, I would say.
It sounds like you say, it's quite similar to Civic, where because that position has changed, it's like, if you're playing at left back, you'd expect your tackling success to go down because you're in those. It's a more challenging place to try and win the ball back at centre half. So all that kind of stuff. All right, well, Joe, maybe Kingsley's another one we can come back to in the future then. I guess looking at the midfield then, Cammy Devlin, a player who I think delights and frustrates in equal measure. I know. So, what's your take on him then? How's he been getting on?
So, I love Cammy Devlin. I think his attitude to football is brilliant. He just loves to play the game. He's like a little puppy chasing the ball, isn't he? People hate and people love. I love it. His defensive side of his game. You'll see as when I post the article tomorrow, I've grouped each kind of part of the game: defensive, attacking, and possession. And the defensive part is lots of green. It's very, very high, above the 90th percentile for most of the stuff. So that's ball recoveries in the final third, counter pressures, interceptions, pressures, and tackles. They're all 90th percentile or better. For all central midfield or attacking midfield players or defensive midfield players. And best in the league ball recoveries as well. I think it went from 13 ball recoveries per game last year, and it's up to 17 ball recoveries per game this year. So pretty incredible numbers. The only thing that lets him
one every.
Oh, that's math. I can't do that.
I know. Regularly, though. He does it a lot.
One every 6 minutes.
6 minutes or so.
Ball,
Let's go for that. Let's go for that.
Yeah, not bad at all. The only thing that lets him down from the defensive point of view is aerial ability, but he's 4'9", so what do you expect?
That's very true.
So the thing that people do get on his back about, and you can sitting in the stands, you can hear the grumbles the second he gets the ball and takes a touch. People get a little bit anxious, but he is in the 90th percentile of accurate passes. So he is better than 90% of the people in the league who play defensive midfield, centre midfield, or attacking midfield for keeping the ball, accurately passing the ball, which is up. I think it went up from 80% last year to 86% of accurate passes. So he only misplaces 14 out of every 100 passes. So I think people getting on his back about his passing ability, yes, he's not going to ping passes like Rudy Scatchel or anything, but he does the simple things, keeps the ball well. He's never going to be that creative player who's creating lots of hard passes, but he does the simple things pretty well. And also, when I look at players' kind of ability to keep the ball, I look at the dribbles as well. And his successful dribbles is went from, I think it was 55% last year, success rate with dribbles, which isn't the greatest. It's not awful though, actually, but it's not the greatest. And it's up to about 80% this year. So
wow,
he's only losing the ball, one every 17 attempted passes or dribbles. So pretty impressive, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. So do you think he's, when you look at when you've been doing your analysis on Canadian players, do you think he's the one who's probably kicked on the most between this year and last?
Potentially. I feel like last year he was still brilliant at all like that off the ball kind of stuff. He has lacked actually a lot in the attacking side of the game. He's not contributed to goals or assists, and a number of his other metrics in the attacking sense aren't the best. So possession wise, he's decent. Defensively, he's good. But I guess again could be a positional thing. He's maybe Naismith's just getting him to do what he's good at instead of kind of trying to get forward and create things. Which was probably when fans were kind of getting on his back when he was asked to do harder things like creating chances up the
balls into the wingers or thinking in towards the back post. Like that's not his game. It's not his game.
Exactly. But he did kind of contribute with a few assists and goals from just his intensity high up the park. So if he can continue that this year, like the first goal against Hibs in the 3-0 at Tynecastle last year, just stealing the ball off Fish on the byline, on the goal line, and just passing it in, things like that. I don't think
even like both goals against Rosenborg as well at Tynecastle. Again, where it's just he's just there and getting in amongst it, and he's just all of a sudden he's got a chance.
Exactly. But hopefully we'll see a little bit more from him up there. But I don't think it's essential for his game, but it would be essential to have a partner in there that could do that, because we're missing out on a creative centre midfielder. I feel like we've been saying that for how many years now?
It's a long-standing issue. I guess we'll get to Shankland next then, I suppose. A lot of talk about him. Obviously, he's had that 8-game goal drought. Obviously, that came to an end against Celtic the weekend there. What are your thoughts on him then? How's he been getting on?
So, from an attacking sense, there's not been as much difference as I thought it was going to be. Obviously, they scored less goals, but he's still scored a couple at this time of the year. Not many people have scored a vast amount more than him. He's on 2 goals, I think. I think O'Reilly's on 6, 1 or 2 players are on 5, and then maybe 3 or 4 other players. There's a few other players on 3 and 2 goals. So there's still time to catch up with the kind of goals and stuff. Again, like saying earlier, he's had no assists this year, but I don't think he had many last year either. So it's not like we're missing out that from his game. He's got more touches in the box this year. So people do say he drops deep to get the ball a lot, but it does look like from the stats that he is actually getting more touches in the box. And I think his shots, I think he's got a similar amount of shots as well. But there's been a lower percent on target. So maybe getting the wrong type of touches in the box, or maybe the wrong positioning in the box. So he's still getting those touches, but he's not having as good a shooting chance potentially.
Yeah, that's interesting, because Joe, he said that after the Celtic game on Sunday there. He came out and he's like, he spoke about the fact that one thing he mentioned is he's on, I think in all competitions he's on 5 goals for the season so far, something like that. And he was like, actually at this point last season I was on the same. So I'm at one track compared to last season. So that's the wee thing I thought was interesting. And the other thing as well was the fact that he talked about during that drought when he was struggling to score, he spoke about the fact that sometimes you end up you make the wrong runs, or you make the wrong decisions when you're in the box, and then it does lead to a lower quality scoring chance. So I think that's something that the team, he himself and the coaching staff seem to be aware of, and you can just hope that with that goal against Celtic. Hopefully that's a monkey off his back, and he can get back to his best, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. Strikers are well, not all the time, but a lot of them are confidence players. So I feel like that goal could change things. Hopefully he kicks on after that, and it might just be a lack of confidence that's affecting his finishing ability, or it could be the lack of a partner, because we don't really have someone like Ginnelly last year, who they kind of knew where each other was going to be and worked really well with each other. Don't have a partner for him yet. I know we tried Vargas in that role at the weekend, kind of, and hopefully I think that could be a good partnership. So let's see where it goes, I suppose. Maybe higher confidence going forward from him, maybe a partner closer to him could help. So yeah, not too worried about him at the moment, but hopefully he can kind of continue getting in the goals.
That's interesting. Yeah, so I think we can say that Shankland, statistically, in a lot of ways, pretty much the same as last season. It's maybe just not quite falling for him in the same manner.
Yeah. But I think the one thing that changed was the defensive side of his game. It looks like he's playing a bit differently. So his counter pressures, aggressive actions. So counter pressures, I think I've said it already. Counter pressures when we lose a ball, getting the ball back within, I think it's, or pressing to get the ball back within, I think it's 2 seconds.
I think so.
They went down aggressive actions. So whenever someone receives a ball, kind of pressing them, ball recoveries, successful duels, and the amount of tackles he puts in as well, all lower. So a lot of the defensive metrics have went down. So I don't know if he's been told worry less about chasing the ball down and pressing and trying to get it back and just, I don't know, conserve your energy or something. But that's the one thing I noticed that was the biggest change was that side of the game.
That makes sense. I think that's something you can see most weeks, is the fact that when Hearts loses the ball, sometimes he's not he's not hurrying after the guy trying to get it back. He's just kind of wandering back up, and getting back in position for when Hearts do win the ball back.
Exactly. And some people will say that that's a negative. It's like telling him to work harder and stuff. But at the end of the day, he's a penalty box striker. He's a lot more than that, but he's best when he's in that right position in the box and can finish a ball. And maybe Naismith just told him, stop wasting your energy. Just worry less about that and worry more about being in the right position when we're attacking. I don't know. I'm not in those changing rooms, so I don't know what's been said, but that could be. It's not always a negative. Your striker not chasing down every ball,
of course,
but it's sometimes it's an easy stick to beat the player with for when you're sitting in the stands.
Aye, absolutely. I guess we'll look at Alan Forrest then just now. So he's a player. I think the last few weeks he's really come onto a game. Obviously got that fantastic goal in the derby. It had a couple of got that header as well against County as well. Got the winner there. So how's but obviously before that he was kind of in and out of the team. He was struggling to get into the team, to be honest. So how's he been doing compared to last year?
So he's not changed too much, actually. One thing I have noticed is he is kind of a jack of all trades. He's not bad across the kind of all metrics that I've used. He's not really got a specific area that he's not very good on. Some players will be good attacking but bad defensively or bad possessions. He's fairly good at everything, to be honest. But it's one of those things. In football, you sometimes want someone who's amazing at goal scoring or just amazing at winning the ball back. Him being just pretty good at everything might be detrimental to why he wasn't in the team. We might have looked at the likes of Vargas thinking he's going to create scoring chances and he's going to score. So I'm going to start him instead, where Alan Forrest is just works hard and does the defensive side pretty well. He's actually contributed with I think a couple goals already this season, or one or two. 2 goals I think it is this season. He's getting lots of shots, lots of touches in the box. Yeah, he's kind of doing pretty well with everything. And I feel like the metrics on each metric, well, not all of them, but a lot of them, he's doing the same, but just a little bit better on quite a lot of them, which is good. So I think there is an improvement with him this year. But it's one of those things. It could also be the fact that he was playing right wing back last year a lot of the time. So the fact that he's got more touches in the box and more shots and stuff, it could just be the fact that he's playing further up the park.
I know what you're saying, because like that kind of versatility can work against him at times, where because he's basically fine wherever you ask him to do. That can work against you, and that we can do a wing back for a game. Alan Forrest will do it. It's no bother at all. That kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And very, very quickly, I'll just ask you to speak a little bit about Yutaro Oda, who is the eighth man, the guy who just about sneaked his way onto the list.
Just because I love him, basically.
That's quite all right. So how's he been getting on then? How's he doing?
So defensively, he's another one that does really well. We see him working hard, winning the ball back. He's so quick and agile that I feel like it would be impossible to play. I would hate to play against him if I was a winger or a right back or something. Trying to play it from the back, it would just be so annoying. He's always there. He's fast. He's intense. So yeah, his defensive metrics were brilliant last year, and they're brilliant this year. He's had less shots this year per game, and there's lower shots per touch. So percentage of touches that are shots, I think is the best way to describe it, is lower. But that kind of makes me think that we trust him more, or he's getting more confident and trying to get on the ball more instead of just he's not taking more shots. I think it's mostly to do with the fact he's getting on the ball. Yeah, he's less of an impact player who's he's actually getting involved more.
It's like another player, even against like Celtic at the weekend, you saw that when he came on. I mean, I thought he was really lively. I thought he was giving Celtic a few problems, and they're obviously some of the best players in the league. And again, just things like his dribbling ability. He's got that wee shift of balance. He's got the quick feet, and he was able to basically just get himself right in amongst it and win fouls and beat men and all that kind of stuff. He is an exciting player, but still maybe a wee bit raw.
Yeah, 100%. He's probably the rawest player that we have. But if we can kind of develop him, it would be brilliant. I remember looking at the data for him in the league he was playing in, the J League, wasn't it? Yeah, in the J League. And I think everyone worried when he first came to Hearts, his goals and assists were ridiculously low. But in the previous season, before coming to Hearts, I think it was like his shots. I think he had the most shots by quite a distance in the league for attacking players, but his shooting accuracy just wasn't great. So if we could, at the time I thought if we could change those shots and just get them a little bit better, more accurate, then that would be brilliant. He would score lots of goals, which it sounds like a hard thing to do. But when you're creating, I guess he was creating lots of chances for himself with his pace and his movement. So if we're able to do that, then I feel like he could score quite a lot of goals. And this season, he scored 2 goals already. And I feel like
that's with an injury spell as well, right in the middle of it. So
I feel like there's a lot more to come from him. I think he could score quite a lot of goals for us this year. So that's kind of a summary of everything I've spoke about.
Fantastic. Brilliant. Right. Well, I won't keep you any longer, Tom, because I know you've got places to be and things to do, and you've spent more than enough time blabbering on to me. So thank you very much. I appreciate that. I'll just quickly say as well, to remind people who are watching, if you're not a subscriber, you can subscribe to Heart Standard for just £1 for 6 months of access, or you can get 12 months of access for £12. You just need to go to heartstandard.co.uk/subscribe. We've got a whole bunch of good stuff on site this week. We've got some follow-up to the Celtic game. So we've got, Naismith's reaction, big Q&A. Same with Lawrence Shanklin. We've got a big Q&A. I've done a tactical kind of tactics analysis of where it all went wrong against Celtic, if you're feeling particularly brave. Today, also, we've also got a interview up with Joe Savage talking about Hearts' recruitment process, how that all works. And later on in the week, obviously, we're going to have Tom's piece, which will be, which I'm sure everyone watching will want to read. That'll be interesting. We'll also have things like predicted lineups. We'll have Scott McIntosh on the Friday morning briefing, also known as Amoruso Lets It Run. And we'll also have all the usual pre-match stuff of Naismith and whoever the player is that's getting put up from the press conference. And I believe as well this weekend we'll have an interview going out with a famous ex-player as well. Mm-hmm. So plenty to sink your teeth into just now, plenty in the pipeline as well. And I guess we'll just call it a day there. So just thank you very much for joining us, and thank you, Tom.
Thank you very much. See you later.